Guys, welcome to our new webinar. I'm really sorry, but I have a real rough voice and I will do my best to speak as clearly and loudly as possible. So the topic of today's webinar is, of course, the Prime Deal Days recap. And I will shortly introduce myself. My name is Stefan. I'm one of the founders of Methoda. I'm here now for more than 11 years. My background is performance marketing and e-commerce in general. So I've founded different companies in the past, and Methoda is my focus for quite some time now. And I'm responsible now for the product management at Methoda, but also for parts of marketing and sales. And I have another speaker with me, Ines.
Hello, Stefan. Hello to all our participants. My name is Ines Notch. I'm responsible for the consulting area at Methoda, meaning really consulting projects, but also content. I'm with Methoda already since more than 8 years. Before that, I've been working for Amazon here in Munich. And as you all know, e-commerce, Amazon especially, you have a lot of data. And I'm supporting our customers in getting the most insights out of this data, taking the right decisions, so they are successful. And I'm going to present some data today.
We're looking forward to that, Ines.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's also have a short introduction to Methoda before we get started. Most of us know us already. We're more than 10 years old now. We started with e-commerce data as a sparring partner for most of the biggest retailers here in Germany and Europe. And we evolved over time as to become an official Amazon partner in the Amazon ads area. We've built an own AI for Amazon ads, for managing sponsored ads, and we added also more and more services around Amazon. So today, I would say we're perfectly covering a full service for Amazon in general. And what do we do? So first of all, we support our clients with all kinds of market analysis and market research to understand markets better, typically to go global and to analyze markets before really listing the products there. We support with content and localization. We support with advertising on and off Amazon. This is quite important because I see there are lots of potentials also outside of Amazon. And we support especially also, this is one of our focus areas next year, more and more clients with very comprehensive monitoring services. May it be our own data that we share, or may it be data that we connect from Amazon itself. Okay, without further ado, I want to jump into the agenda because we have quite lots of slides, as always. And we start with talking about the current status quo of the economy. We will then move to Prime Deal Days statistics, own statistics and external statistics. Ines will then talk about customer search behavior around Prime Day or Deal Days in general. We'll talk about visibility and advertising strategies, and we'll give a very short outlook, basically a roadmap, because Christmas, as you know, is just around the corner. So the economy in 2023, as you all know, I'm very sorry, some slides have screenshots from German websites, but I'm talking about that in English, so don't worry, you will get a short introduction to everything. So Germany is entering officially a recession now. This is a newspaper article from October. And the GDP this year is expected to fall by 0.5%. If you think about the high inflation rates that we've seen over the past months, the minus is even on a real rate even lower. And we see the industry is more and more impacted. So we see bankruptcies. Some of the companies are named here, but we have way more companies that are in financial stress at the moment. And I'm also pretty sure that this will not change in the near future. what is happening? Even big companies like Apple now face no or low growth scenarios, and this is pretty new. So this is a very recent article published in November. So in the latest financial report, Apple stated they really don't expect major growth in the future. Oh, there's already a question incoming. We will answer that in the course of this presentation. And basically, the fourth quarter, they don't expect any high and any huge growth or any revenue developments in there. And on the other hand, basically, consumers know about this. They are really pressured, about the inflation shock that we've seen after the pandemic, after the Ukraine war, and now also with the new conflicts in the world. And consumers really look for discounts. So this is also one of the basically the answers that people gave when they were looking for discounts on Prime Day. This is really the focus at the moment, to find normal products, essential products at a discount, and to get it simply cheaper. And also, if you take a look at statistics for the upcoming Christmas season, people expect a little lower investment for their Christmas gifts this year compared to last year. But if you also take into account the high inflation rates, this is even more severe, the change that we see here in the chart on the right side. There are already retailers and brands reacting to this, and I'm not sure if you for sure IKEA, but on the left side we found articles about lots of supermarkets that are really reducing prices, offering goods at bargains, at discounts. And what is quite interesting about IKEA, from my perspective, is that only a few months ago, IKEA massively raised prices for very popular items. And now, only after a few months later, they started to reduce them again. And also articles that were heavily affected by a price increase at the beginning of the year, like Pax, one of the most popular wardrobes, it's now getting reduced to levels like we've seen it before. So, but there's also another important topic that is actually referring us as a company. And the question here is, how do most companies react to a recession or to a dawning recession? Because not all countries are currently in a recession. Germany is, with regards to their advertising strategies. And the first thing that companies typically do is they cut their budgets. And that's also what we've seen in the beginning of the year. And now I would say it got back to higher levels again. And the second thing that companies do is they focus on advertising efficiency. That means in the end, there was the question here, what is the average ACOS that we see at customers at the moment? I'm not really sure if I have the current number in mind, but I guess we are at around 10% of ACOS at the moment across all of our customers. I will share the details later on. And most of the companies try to improve here. So they try to get higher returns on their advertising expense. And how does that typically look like? So the reduction in advertising spends is something that we've seen over the past crisis in the economy every time. So this is a chart on historical recessions. So you see here the 80s recession, the oil price shock, and so on. And in all of these crises, people were cutting down their budgets. And this is also what we expect to see in the current market environment. This is a survey that we copied in here from a company that is working in the fraud area, and they ask what are B2B and B2C respondents about to do with their ad budgets, and the most important answer was reducing it a little or significantly. And I showed this in our user conference this year, so 6 months ago already. And there's a guy, he's called Sam Walton. He's not alive anymore, but he was the founder of Walmart, so quite successful guy. And he was once asked what he thinks about a recession. And he said, I thought about it and decided not to take part of in it. And I think this is quite a good statement here, because we also believe that a time of crisis is a time with opportunities. And that's why we researched a little bit what big consulting companies would recommend to do in such a period. And there's quite interesting ideas and tips. But one of the most important ones is invest in growth engines. And as we don't have too much time, I will not go into details with the other ideas here and recommendations. But what does it mean if you think about a growth engine? And how does this refer to our topic? So Amazon is on a global scale, on a global basis, growing in most of the markets they're active in still, not only in terms of their nominal size, but also in terms of their market share. So they are either they are stagnating on a very high level, like here in the US, they're expected to stay at around about 40%, or in Germany and Europe, they might even have surpassed the 50% of market share in the e-commerce world. And I have attended an event 2 weeks ago. That's been the Marketplace Convention in Cologne. And there they shared more recent data. And Amazon is expected with its marketplace to probably own around 60% of the German marketplace or even more. And that means for me clearly that Amazon is one of these growth engines that you have out there. And besides the market share and the relevance for your e-commerce revenues, it's also worth noting that Amazon today, and still is, it was 10 years ago and it still is, the #1 product search engine in the e-commerce world. So we also have some statistics prepared for this, but there's no time today. But lots of shoppers, before they purchase an item, either in the brick and mortar world or online, they first take a look at the product detail pages and ratings on Amazon, and then decide for a product. So the second topic that I mentioned before is companies currently try to really focus on advertising and efficiency. And I will also quickly go through these slides here. So one of the most important facts, I guess, is that Amazon Ads has had very, very good early mover advantages years ago. So they started only a few years ago with the Amazon Ads network. And a few years ago, you could easily achieve a return of 10 across in all countries, in all categories on Amazon. But we took a look here at financial data from Amazon, which we update on a quarterly basis. And we see that during the years of the pandemic, the return of an average campaign on Amazon dropped by about 40% and is now basically stagnating on that level. So there was the question with the ACOS. I think if you take a look at Amazon overall, the return of campaigns is probably at around 6 at the moment. And we're now getting closer and closer to the return of other ad channels, like Google, for example. That was an analysis that we conducted together with Smarter E-commerce, SMAC. And we see that most of the ad channels now are on a very comparable level. So you should clearly think about where you spend your ad budgets. Most of the companies that we talk to, and that I personally also speak to at events, simply have one belief. If I want to increase my efficiency, I simply focus on my branded traffic. And I agree, this brings very nice returns, and it also has a very quick effect. And typically the upper management likes it a lot because the returns look great. I can tell you at the same time that I would not recommend such a strategy, because just focusing on branded traffic is, in my perspective, in our perspective, not really smart. It means a good return. The numbers look really great, but in the end, you will not win incremental revenues, and this is what we typically care about. And I just copied that in as an excursion because we don't have a lot of time, but I think it's interesting to know about this. So we have 3 categories. And the first question is, if you think about where to put your and place your ad spends, is your brand findable? That's number one. So that is exactly covering the branded terms, but you can not only do this with ad spend, you can also do this with your search engine optimization, so with your content. So you should be findable, of course, but in this scenario, you're typically decreasing in your market share in the long or mid run. The second question is, are you generating really incremental sales? So do you go for generic terms? Do you attack competitors and also competitor product detail pages? And this is depending on how aggressive you do this. You will maintain your market share in this scenario, or you might even slightly increase it. And then there's the third maybe level of running ads, and this is basically leveraging audiences, especially with the DSP. There are also possibilities with sponsored display campaigns, like remarketing and in-market segment targeting. And here you're at the highest level, basically, and at the most aggressive level, and you will quite likely grow your market share with in such a scenario and setup. Okay. Key takeaways: the economy is under pressure. This definitely leads to reduced spends and a very high focus on efficiency for most of the companies. But I believe this is a great opportunity for everyone who knows about this and who is about to still invest in the growth engines, which to our perspective is Amazon and the e-commerce in general. Okay, let's now jump into some Prime Deal Days statistics. So how did this is the American Big Deal Days picture, but how did these deal days go? So there are some official facts shared by Amazon, and one of the statements that you can find and read everywhere is this event outpaced last year's holiday kickoff event, which was called Peace Prime Early Access Sales. And this is consistent. It doesn't matter which blog you read and which LinkedIn message you check. And so Amazon also states that they saved more than 1 billion for their Prime members in discounts. But if you compare this to Prime Day, on Prime Day they stated they saved 2.5 billion. So you see that this deal event was definitely smaller than the Prime Day that we saw this year before. And I also brought here some statistics from eMarketer, which might be interesting. So compared to last year's Peace event, they estimate or they measure the growth of 8%. And compared to a typical holiday e-commerce day, we saw an increase, or they measured an increase of 42%, which is indeed quite impressive and attractive. But still, own data shows that compared to the first Prime Day this year, the event was less impactful. So there's a question coming in. Let me shortly check. Will the trend from vendor to seller business continue? I see only the dependency from brand in vendor business. Yes, I believe that, but maybe Ines can also say something about this in her part. I think Amazon is pushing lots of companies to the seller, to the marketplace. But I also believe that the vendor model will still play a major role or an important role in the future. I hope that was answering the question. Okay, let's jump to the next slide then. So one of the also quite interesting topics is what products and categories have been successful in October in the Prime Deal Days. And Amazon is stating 4 categories. They say apparel, beauty, home, and toys. And we also found some data from Feedvisor. And this is quite consistent with what Amazon is telling. So we see here health and beauty. We see clothing with a high uplift compared to the year before. We see electronics, which could be parts, which could include home as a category, even if they have it here in a separate cluster. And we see sports and outdoors as one, and toys, which also is stated by Amazon. Amazon says that some of the top selling products have been the Apple AirPods, Bissell, a product from Bissell, a carpet cleaner, and these Crest 3D white strips, which I exactly don't know what it's all about, probably teeth cleaning. And there was another question coming in, is this data from the US or all countries? I believe that the data from Amazon is global, and Feedvisor has, I guess, a stronger footprint in the US. So this is a mix between global and US data. Okay, and that's now, we also want to share a little bit of our data with you. So first of all, what we analyzed is the development of the return of campaigns. And here you find a broader picture of the returns from calendar week 35 to calendar week 44. And you see we've been quite stable throughout summer. Then we saw a drop in the returns of campaigns. And in the Prime Deal Days week, we again saw a spike, and now it's dropping. And this will quite likely be the picture until Cyber Week starts, because people, as stated in the beginning, are looking for bargains. They want to get discounts. They want to buy articles, essential articles at a discount. But if we take a look at a more granular level, it's also quite interesting because these are all the days from the 1st of October to the 14th of October. And what you can see here is the average, by the way, of the weeks before is this gray shaded area here. So this is the average of the 2 or 3, even 3 weeks before, because they have been quite stable. And we see that October starts exactly on that average. Then we see a bit of a spike some days before the deal days. And then we see a sharp drop. And this drop that we could find was lowest or most highest. The drop was highest on the 7th of October. So 3 days before the first deal day. And compared to the first deal day, this is a drop of 35%. So you should really smartly steer your budgets to the deal days and not spend it and waste it on the days before Prime Day or Prime Days. On the deal days, we then see a massive uplift in the returns of our campaigns. And directly after the deal days, we see the heaviest drop across October. So in the end, it means really focus your budgets. If you want to be efficient, focus your budgets on the deal days. And we also wanted to show you a little bit of the traffic throughout October on exactly the days that we analyzed before with the ROAS. And you see that the traffic is pretty stable before the deal days. Then on the first deal day, it's highest. And we see a 93% uplift in campaign clicks on the first deal day. It's dropping a bit on the second day, and it's dropping also thereafter, but it's very much on the level as we've seen it before. So it's not consistent with the drop that we see in returns. But also here you see it's very important to really focus on these deal days. We also took a look at the efficiency of ad budget spent with AI. So we provide such an AI. This is the data that we could analyze. And we compared this to all of the campaigns that were not managed through our system. And basically the blue line is the clicks that we managed. And the orange line is the clicks that were not managed by our software. And you can see that before Prime Day, shortly before Prime Day, lots of campaigns are already generating and spending generating higher clicks and generating higher spends. So I assume that most of these campaigns are manually optimized, and they try to basically get the bids and CPCs up already to be prepared for Prime Day. But that also means that lots of budget is spent before the deal days in the more efficient, in the less efficient period. Then to the first Prime Day, we see for all campaigns that we didn't manage an uplift of 60% in traffic. And I compared this to our data. And in our system, we could manage to spend budgets before Prime Day on a very stable level, and then increase heavily by more than 100% the clicks on the first deal day. Okay, another factor that we believe is quite important is the returns across campaign types. Because so you can gain some efficiency with better optimizing your campaigns, but you can also gain efficiency in leveraging different campaign types. And I have copied in here the average of all of our sponsored ads campaigns, the average ROAS. And what you can see here is that the sponsored products are pretty much on the average of all campaigns. Sponsored display campaigns are giving lower returns than the average, which is also, I guess, logical, because with sponsored display campaigns, you typically go a bit broader. Also, you try to reach other audiences and not only basically the relevant keywords or relevant products. You go for categories, for example. And then we have different kinds of sponsored brand campaigns, and which is quite interesting. So also in past Prime Days, sponsored brand campaigns typically outperformed sponsored product campaigns. And this is also here the case. So we see that the standard sponsored brand product collection is very close to the average, but store spotlight campaigns and video campaigns outperform the average campaign, and especially also sponsored product campaigns. And what I feel is quite interesting is to take a look at video campaigns, because if I take a look at the overall performance of video campaigns, also compared to sponsored display, they perform slightly better than their image counterpart. Okay, and there was a question regarding DSP, because I didn't talk about that yet, but the real outlier here in the data is DSP. Because for DSP, we see a return which is more than double of sponsored products and still lots of scaling potential, which is quite attractive for us. That's why also we say DSP is a really huge opportunity for 2024. So our main focus in all of our campaigns, not only in DSP, is performance. So we don't see ourselves as a brand agency or brand awareness company. We see ourselves very much focused on performance. So the DSP campaigns that we run are indeed very focused on remarketing and retargeting purposes, but not only on remarketing the own products. We typically also go for remarketing in the category and on to try to target competitor products. This is one of the focus areas that we have. Yes, and you will get the slides. There was another question coming in afterwards. Okay. So what are the key takeaways from this part? So first of all, you should analyze the campaign performance beforehand, because typically you have lots of scaling potentials, either by steering budget better, or by focusing on different products or campaigns, or by simply adding some campaign types or extending targets. But this is something, if you're interested, that would be part of a more separate session. Secondly, and I'm not saying you have to use our software, but I definitely believe that's why we've also built the software, that AI and the professional tooling helps you to leverage deal days better. So I would hardly recommend to go with a professional tool setup to really leverage these deal events and also the high season times that we have ahead of us. There was another question coming in before we jump to Ines' part. Do you recommend a specific timing when to start with DSP for events? Yes. So sponsored ads react way faster to changes in bids compared to DSP. So we recommend that for DSP, that you have an onboarding phase or a phase where you slowly increase the budgets. So you should start at least 1 or 2 weeks before a major event with DSP campaigns. And typically, you also want to optimize your campaigns with regards to the inventory and the exact audience and so on. So it makes sense to be prepared. So 1 week is actually too little. I guess 2 weeks or a bit more makes sense. Okay, Ines, now I'm happy to hand over to you.
Thank you, Stefan. So after we had started very broadly and came into looking at advertising results during the Prime Deal days, I'm now looking again at a little bit broader picture. So we are looking at how do customers actually searched on Amazon during the Prime Deal days. We are looking at the top 5 European marketplaces, which is UK, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. And we are looking at the complete range of categories. So, but before we look into the data, just a brief introduction. How do consumers usually search on Amazon? We all know, because everybody who works with Amazon knows, that shoppers that are looking on Amazon for a certain product usually have quite concrete purchase intent. It doesn't need to be that they search and buy directly, but they inform themselves and they already know that they want to buy something. They might not be able to state already which product exactly they want to buy, but they know what they are looking for. So if we look at searches, what we always see is that a search term used by a consumer contains an interest. So it's a product type or a solution for an issue they have. It might be a theme, like we stated here, Harry Potter, Star Wars, or Pokemon. So people are looking for something specific. And they also might use attributes like gender, like women, men, or color or sizes, which is very, very frequently used, of course, in the fashion and accessory area, but also for other products. So interest always describes the product type the consumer is searching for. Quite frequently, they also use a brand, or they are already searching for a specific product name, like they are searching for Lego or Apple or a PlayStation 5. And sometimes they also include an occasion in their search term they are using, like a birthday present or a Christmas present. It's not as strong as brands or interest, but especially during the holiday season that's just ahead of us, we see that people are searching for things as a Christmas gift, for instance, like Christmas gift for kids, 5-year-old. It's very frequently used when people search for toys. Besides having these topics, like the consumer is searching for an interest, might add a brand or product name and a certain occasion. Of course, the way and the topics consumers are searching are changing over time. We can talk about it's influenced by new trends, of course, but it's also influenced by external factors. If you are following our Prime Day recap webinars already, since we offer them, you might recall last year in the summer, we had a heat wave of more than 30 degrees. People in Germany were searching for heaters because of the Russian invasion in the Ukraine, and people were afraid that we are not having enough gas to heat up our apartments during wintertime, so they were searching and buying heaters in the hottest summer. So these are external factors that might influence the search. But of course, it's also seasonality. When you look at what are consumers searching searched on these Prime deal days, it differs to what they searched for last Prime deal days, because you compare summer to autumn or winter time, and special occasions like Christmas, but that's mainly coming up now, starting November. And of course, Amazon events also influence the way consumers search on the different Amazon platforms. And that is something we already see when we are comparing the share of branded versus generic traffic. When we do such a comparison, we always look at the 2 Prime days and compare it to the previous week, how consumers search there. And what we always see across like the different marketplaces we look at in Europe is that, of course, the major portion of the traffic on Amazon is generic. So it does not include a brand name or a specific product name that can be assigned to a unique brand, like iPhone, for instance. And you see like the branded share the week before the Prime Deal Days event was around 20 to 30% of the total traffic. When we look at the 2 days, the 2 Prime Deal Days, we see that across all marketplaces, the share of branded traffic increases. Like here in the UK and in Germany, you see it's actually increasing by 10 percentage points. It's not increasing that strongly in Italy and Spain because the branded share is already significantly higher than in Germany and the UK. But we see that the branded share increases, and that is simply because consumers are searching for deals, for bargains from specific brands. So although we say you should not focus all your advertising on branded terms, during these deals events, if you have a strong brand, you definitely have to protect your brand during these deals events because shoppers increase the branded searches. If we look at the interests, so what are people actually searching for during these Prime Deal Days events, we are always looking at the top 10 interests, and we get these interests by actually taking the Amazon search term report from the different marketplaces and like splitting up the search terms into individual words and assign a traffic to that. So we actually can like sum up different search terms that contain the same word to an interest group. And what we see when we look at the top 10 interests across the different countries is that a lot of these interests are actually gender or a mixture of gender and age related. So we see it's searched a lot for women, men, kids, babies. And this is already a hint, and that is also was reflected in Stefan's part already, that consumers were actually searching quite strongly for fashion and accessories, where we see a lot of these gender-related searches, and also you see that later too in toys, because like it's toys for kids, toys for babies. But we see that these are some categories consumers were searching strongly. What we did in the next step is actually to look into like more of the product interests, because this shows us that people are strongly searching for fashion and accessories, but we also wanted to understand which product types consumers are actually searching. Oh, sorry, I forgot one slide. So before we come to the product interest, just comparing the top gender and age-related topics here to the previous week. So you see, like for instance, in UK, women; in Germany, women, men; in France, women, men, kids. Like if the arrow the gray arrow goes to the right, this means it's at the same position as the week before. So besides searching for fashion and accessories, we also see that consumers were searching quite similar on these Prime Deal Days events as the week before. And this is something that we have seen on the Prime Day in July this year, the first time. that consumers are not necessarily searching for like expensive products, but they are actually also trying to buy everyday products for a discounted price. And this is shown also by like the stability in the way or in the interests consumers search for. So, but now let's go into the product interests. As I said, we simply remove the gender and age related topics to see what product types or interests consumers were actually searching for during the Prime Deal days. And you see at the top, it's the iPhone. It was searched most as a word on all marketplaces during the Prime Deal days events. And you see, like, for instance, in Germany, Pro is on the second place, in France too, in Spain too, and in Italy too, which means, like, if you know the Apple products, you usually have like an iPhone or an iPhone Pro. You might have AirPods and an AirPods Pro. So you always have like this professional version that's more expensive. Having that on the second place clearly shows that not everyone searching for an iPhone is searching for an iPhone Pro. But of course, it's strongly related to the searches for Apple products, especially for iPhones. What we also see is that we have like some seasonal topics like Halloween or Advent calendar, but we also see like TV sets, earphones, vacuum cleaners. So we see quite a few consumer and household electronic products showing up in the top 10 product interests. And if we compare that with the previous week, we actually see that these more expensive consumer or household electronics actually came into the top 10 product interest just during the Prime Deal days. So, which means consumers were searching the week before also for an iPhone. That was the top search topic the week before Prime Deal days. But like vacuum cleaners, they just have been searched less the week before Prime Deal days. So what we see here too is like a mixture between, when you recall, consumers searching a lot of fashion and accessory, but also searching a lot for consumer and household electronics, which are usually like more expensive. So consumers are searching for bargains on more expensive electronic products. And if we look at the brands consumers were searching for, we've seen like branded traffic increased during the Prime Deal days. You see across all marketplaces again, Apple on the top position. Not surprisingly, if like iPhone is the top position. For product interests, but of course Apple offers more products, but Apple is really the most searched brand here. Although I have to explain that we are not only looking at Apple as a brand, but if a consumer is searching for iPhone or iPad or AirPods, then this is also assigned to the brand Apple, because these are products that are unique to the brand Apple. It's the same for the other brands. And what you can see here is really that consumers are searching mainly for very well-known international brands. There are some exceptions like Doda, which is a diapers brand in Spain, or maybe Tineco might not be that well known. It's a vacuum cleaner brand from China that's like strongly growing since a couple of years on Amazon. But if we look at all these brands here shown, we actually see that from the top 10 brands we are looking at here, 5 show up on every marketplace. So these are really, truly successful brands across Europe on the different Amazon marketplaces. And I think you will agree when I say it's not only across Europe, it's most probably worldwide, because these are truly worldwide corporations being very successful in their product area. And if we compare that to the previous week, we see, of course, for Apple, the same effect as for iPhone. It's on position 1, and it was on position 1 the week before the Prime Deal days. We see that, like, for instance, a brand like Lego grew, increased their rank during Prime Deal days because, yeah, I mean, Lego is a very well-known brand. It's very strong on Amazon too, but of course it's toys related, and consumers already start buying Christmas presents at these Prime Deal days, and Lego is a very great present for kids for Christmas. So you see that this is really increasing. But we also see that a couple of brands, not many, but a couple of the brands we see here, like Ninja or Bosch or Playmobil, Google, Tineco, Oral-B, Donut in that case, they just came up into the top 10 search brands during this Prime Deal Days events. And we have seen that, like, consumers were increasing their search for the search traffic for consumer and, like, household electronics. And this is partially reflected by these brands coming into the top 10 brands during Prime Deal Days. But a lot of these brands have been in the top 10 also the week before, which actually means that it's really hard to increase your branded traffic during these deal events just by investing in these deal events. You really have to build up your brand over the year to gain brand awareness and to gain branded traffic during such deal events. So wrapping up this, what can we see from, like, the search analysis across the different marketplaces? As we see, for each deal event, branded traffic increases because consumers are searching for deals for specific from specific brands. This means you have to cover your brand during these deal days. Consumers searched a lot for fashion and accessories, but also for consumer and household electronics and some seasonal products. But consumer search and topics and interest search for did not change that strongly. So they do not only search for, like, expensive products, but also a lot of consumers use these deal events to buy everyday products. And regarding brands, it's really like they are searching for the same brands as the weeks before, and it's mainly well-known international brands. And this means for you really that this trend that we have started to see last Prime Day, it's very complicated with Prime Deal and Prime Deal Days. This searching for everyday products that we have seen last Prime Day in July continues, and that is simply because consumers try to save money because they have less money because of the worldwide economic situation. It's still the major search traffic on Amazon is generic. So if you want to grow your sales, you need to make sure that your product is visible on the top generic search terms, either organic or paid. Nevertheless, you have to make sure to protect your brand during these deal events because shoppers increase branded searches, but you cannot increase your branded searches just by, like, advertising during that day. You really need to build up your brand awareness along the year. And talking about visibility, brand awareness, and what you should do as an advertising strategy during these deal events, we're now looking into the visibility and the relation to different advertising strategies. We actually picked one example that was also showing up as one of the top product interests pretty much across all marketplaces, which is earphones. we are focusing here on Germany because like getting into comparing all the different countries would be too much for such a short webinar. So we're looking into the earphones, and just to understand what means visibility and why is it important. Stefan just mentioned it briefly before. It's really that from a study that's already like it's just 1 year old. A lot of consumers actually like use Amazon not only for shopping but also for product research. And most of the shoppers on Amazon do just enter a keyword in the search bar. They are not browsing the categories. They are just entering a keyword in this search term in the search bar, and then they get this search results page. And as most of you should be aware, the top placements today are paid placements. It's not organic. And the number of organic and placement, of course, it differs between different categories, but it's like really low nowadays because the number of advertising placements increases because that's another revenue stream from Amazon. And it's really, really important that you are ending up with your products on the first search result page, because most of the consumers do not go to the second or third page. So when we talk about visibility, we are actually measuring which products that belong to which brand show up for search terms that we are looking up on the first search result page. We completely neglect the second and third and whatever. We are focusing on the first search result page. And when we looked at this during the Prime Deal Days events in October, for like all generic search terms containing the word earphones, so we were really just looking at generic search terms, not branded, we see from an organic visibility, so products ranking organically without advertising invest, that JBL was the top visible brand here organically. If we compare it to their visibility paid, you see they were nearly not visible on the advertising placements. Soundcore, the second most visible brand organically, was actually nearly as visible, also paid, which means they had like quite a good balance between organic and paid visibility also during the Prime Deal Days event. And if we look at Bose, which has like the third highest paid visibility with 9% on these earphones topic, you see they were pretty much not visible organically during the Prime Deal Days event. And the same is true for LG Electronics, that was not visible organically, but the most visible brand in paid advertising for earphones this Prime Deal Days. And I'm now going to explain you a little bit what happened here and what strategy was behind that visibility. If you have joined one or the other of our Prime Day Deal recap webinars here, you most probably know that chart. So we always explain our customers the different strategies they can follow and what they have to do. So the standard strategy just means do as always, don't care, just run your advertising and neglect that there is a special deal event. Moderate push means our customers are running deals and they want to support these deals, which means that we need a higher budget to be able to increase the bids, because what happens during these deal events is always like a higher competition, which leads to higher bids. Then there are customers or brands that actually want to really boost their sales with these deal events. That means they want to support the deals, but not only, and they want to like really, really increase their sales. But this also means they really have to increase their advertising budget strongly, so we really can push the bids high. And then, of course, you have DSP, but we can't see that on the visibility on Amazon. That's why we are not going to look into that right now. So the first example I'm having with me here is JBL, which is pretty much standard strategy. They have a very strong organic visibility in August, but also during Prime Deal days, simply because their products are pretty much bestsellers in all relevant categories for earphones. So they show up organically because they are already selling very good beforehand. They did not have a deal, and they did not adjust the budget, which at the end means the budget was too low to be visible all day, and it was too low to actually increase the bids to be able to show up on the first search result page. So this simply means high organic visibility, pretty much not visible paid, because with a standard budget, you have no chance to succeed in such a competitive category during such a deal event. The moderate push, I brought you LG Electronics. They did not have a deal, but they pushed strongly their paid visibility by high budget. And they were strongly focusing on generic search term, and they were really pushing sponsored brands. So they tried to be visible the whole time on the sponsor brand top position of the first search result page, and just investing money into advertising rather than into deals, which brought them a very high visibility. But of course, lacking the deals, which also attract customers to buy a product because it's less expensive than it usually is. Soundcore is slightly different. They also follow a moderate push strategy, but of course with deals. And they had a very successful deal, or deals for their P2 Mini. And they could, by like running these deals, actually increase their organic visibility strongly, because deals push organic visibility during this prime deal, during these deal events. But they also spend a lot of money on advertising to push these deal products. It was not enough budget to have also like the non-deal products visible as usual. That's why they declined a little bit in paid visibility, but still they were focusing. So they were focusing on the deals and pushing the deals with advertising, and I assume that was very, very successful for them. And looking at the last example I brought to you, which is Bose, you see they are pretty much not visible organically anyway. This is simply because they are selling premium products, and premium products have a very, very low click and conversion probability on generic search terms. That's why they usually don't manage it on the first search result page unless you really search for the brand name or the product name. But they were running quite a lot of deals, and these deals actually resulted in the higher organic visibility. But they also invested strongly in paid visibility, not only for the deal products, but also for non-deal products, making them like very, very strong during that event. We are pretty much at the end of our webinar.
Ines, I would recommend we skip maybe the key takeaway slide.
Yes, that's fine. So
Okay.
you will take over for the rest, for the remaining 1 minute.
Thanks a lot. I'm very sorry that we are above
Okay.
time. This is a bit of a new format, and we also try to answer all the questions. There's one that's left. We will answer that thereafter. We just want to conclude with one overview of the timeline to be prepared for Christmas. So we talked about building the base many times before. In the beginning of November, it's about preparing Black Friday, Cyber Monday week. This starts already on the 17th, which is quite important to know, and ending on the 27th. And then basically there are some last chances to push deals to increase traffic. And quite important also in terms of budget efficiency, reduce your spends around Christmas and keep up thereafter. And yeah, this is basically the final slide. I think we will not manage to have any questions answered anymore, but I hope a lot that you liked it. We will send you the presentation thereafter with all the questions that you ask in between. And if you have further questions, just approach us and we will get them answered right away. Thanks a lot for your time.